biggest opportunities can come from taking a risk, taking a chance. And if you can come up with a clear plan on how to speak to people in a way that they've never heard before, you do something phenomenal. Any person, if they can push themselves outside of the boundary of wherever they're limited and can push their ideas further, anybody can do this.
So I have an official bio here for Brady. But what I want to do is really tell you about my experience with Brady all the way in London. So Brady comes on and you know, he's amazing. He's got great energy. He's taken work. He's done he's worked with MrBeast before and done some amazing things. But the one thing that, you know, instead of just reading off his bio, the one thing is I took away was simply the fact that Brady spoke so much about big ideas, but not just big ideas, but the biggest ideas that you can really push marketing, video, advertising to. I found myself, I think I'm kind of a crazy guy, but at the same time, Brady pushed me out of my comfort zone and started making me think like,
that's what we do, Melvin.
Yes, he's started making me think like, you know, am I taking an idea far enough? Do I have the courage to really go with an idea that I believe in marketing, in advertising, in video production, to the best that it can actually be? And, you know, I just really thought that was the most mind-expanding thing. You know, really some exercises that really challenge our comfort zone, challenge our limitations, challenge what we think we can or cannot do. And I just thought this would be so fantastic to share it with everyone. I think that's why he's worked with some of the biggest content producers or so. So I think a lot of us, and Brady compare what he did with all the other people he's worked with before to the typical content producer that takes the phone and just goes, hey guys, etc. And I thought this would be so amazing to share because many of you shoot video and many of us do creation here, but we're stuck in a very normal paradigm because we think that that's what it is supposed to be. And I think today we'll not just give you ideas, not just tell you stories, I'm quite sure Brady has a lot, but we'll really challenge how far you're willing to push an idea, how far you're willing to push an angle, how far you're willing to take your marketing to, and if you really want to be at a big scale. So I think that's what you're going to take away. So Brady has worked with MrBeast. Brady is the founder of biggest agency. I finally understood what it's called biggest at the end of his tool sharing, and you will prove at the end of this. And you know, so much things here. He's a creative director. He has done YouTube video production, media creation, social media strategy, filmmaking, directing, post-production. You know, the guy's done it all. And I think he's really cool. And for me, my highlight in London, you know, when I went all the way there was with listening to Brady. So ladies and gentlemen, can you put your hands together? And the one, the underneath, Brady Edwards.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. It's great to be here, Melvin. I appreciate you making the time to make this happen. We've got a little bit of a time difference. And so it's 8 p.m. here. I'm not sure what time it is there for you.
It's about 11 in the morning, but you know, I love your setup. You know, I really appreciate you spending, getting the crew there, setting this up. Brady, I walked right in, and can you walk us through a little bit of how, you know, you came into this because I just think your story is fascinating. How did you come into shooting videos, directing, and going behind and in front of a camera?
Yeah, no. Well, it'll surprise most people. I picked up my first camera in 2017. I was watching YouTube a lot. Logan Paul, David Dobrik. I loved it. And I was working in a pest control job. Wow. So I'm selling contracts, helping people get spiders and ants out of their house. And I'm like, there's got to be more to life than this, right? And in my in-between time, my escape was YouTube. And so I fell in love with these creators. And one of them put up an audition opportunity, basically said, hey, look, you know, we want to have a new videographer. At that point, I had been doing videos on the weekends with my friends. They had a company. Hey, I'll do a free video because I'm not that good. And so I'll do whatever I got to get a little bit more experience. So I did enough of those and felt, you know, I'm pretty good. I'll apply and I'll see if I can be Logan Paul's filmmaker. And I ended up not working with Logan Paul. The whole thing was kind of, it was just for content. They had already had somebody picked. But who did see my video was a creator named Tanner Fox. So Tanner Fox is a young kid. He had a lot of supercars. He did scootering. Very popular creator, and he saw my content, my submission video that I turned around in a day. You know, it comes down sometimes to an opportunity. It'll be one moment, and that one moment will change everything. And that one moment often is uncomfortable. That one moment is often not ideal. It's not perfectly ready to fit into your schedule, and it might be a pain. But if you can grab that one moment and not even sure how it's going to go, but grab it and chase it down, the best things end up happening like that. And the biggest opportunities can come from taking a risk, taking a chance. I didn't know if it was going to be worth running around town, filming this submission video for Logan Paul. I didn't know if anybody would see it. I spent 3 Red Bulls and an all-nighter trying to edit this video together. I put it on Twitter. And, what that led to was a year's working with Tanner Fox, living in his house, making creative content with him, traveling the world. He bought a Porsche, a GT3 RS, and Porsche said, hey, come on out to Germany. You can break it in here. You can open it and we'll do a whole thing. And so we did. And so I got to travel all over Europe making content. After about a year, I went back to Utah, back to my roots. I'm from Utah. And I was working another job I just didn't like. And I thought, there's got to be some risk I can take soon. And I don't know what it is, but I'm open to it. My mind drew those things in, even if I didn't know where it was going to come from. And so the day came where I got a call from a good friend of mine. He's the executive producer of a show called The Chosen. It's a very popular international success, and it's about the life of Jesus Christ. And he also has a conference called Vid Summit. He does a lot of things. His name's Daryl Eves. And he called me one day and he said, listen, I've got an interesting opportunity. I think that you should come with me and meet MrBeast. I was like, you're kidding. What day? So I grabbed my bags. We went out there and we hit it off. I hit it off with everybody. It was funny because we were on a set for, what was it? Last to take your hand off of $1 million wins the $1 million. Very popular video. They did 4 videos leading up to it and kind of an elimination round, turned it into a big game show. And so I said, okay, well, I'll go out there. And so I remember we're sitting in the studio and it felt like, I couldn't believe I was there. And I'd already done very cool things. I'd worked with some very cool creators in California, been on very big YouTube channels, and somehow this was the next level of it. Couldn't believe it. Felt so blessed. And so I'm there watching these guys keep their hand on $1 million. And Jimmy turns to me and he says, you're going to work for me. And I looked him dead in the eye. I was like, no, I'm not. I've worked for YouTubers before. I know I'm not doing that anymore. And he's, no. You're going to move here. You're going to work for me. And there was something about that. I felt like I got my letter to Hogwarts, like that moment came like, hey, I'm not, the same thing with Tanner. It was like I was pulled out of obscurity maybe and put into a position where I had the chance to really learn some interesting stuff. So I did. And I got to spend about 2 years living in North Carolina, got to be the film director for MrBeast. We did the craziest things. We got to plan cameras. We got to plan creative. We would stay up till 5 a.m. working with the editing team, bring the vision from an idea to what we filmed, the magic that we captured, and how do you turn that into a video at the end. So that was 2 years of my life, and it was incredible. In fact, I won a house in one of the videos that we did. It was totally random. We were giving people houses away for $1. It was absurd. Who does that? It was a furnished house with, they had like a MacBook Pro sitting in one of the offices. They had a hot tub out back. They did the whole thing. And I was there to film and to direct. I didn't think I'd be pulled into the video. So they surprised me. And I ended up winning in a competition. So I really had, I would say, everything that you could possibly get from an experience like that, including learning how to think. So learning that the world's biggest YouTube channel doesn't just show up and they go, well, what if we do this? There's actually a lot of thought. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of considerations and pushing an idea and saying, this is a great idea. We should run with it. And then everybody else going, no. We push the idea further. We make it bigger. We push it bigger and bigger. In fact, we take things to the most obscene, biggest, craziest level. That's what we do. So when you marinate in that environment for so long, it kind of becomes the way that you think. And so I've all the love and respect to my friends at that channel. And, I'm so thankful to know as much as I do, to experience what I have. And I thought, now that I'm ready to start my own company, what can I do for other people that are trying to make videos? Because these guys, they've got it. They got it all figured out. But there are lots of places that make videos and aren't entirely sure what they're doing. They may hire a camera crew, they may hire a production team, a creative agency, but a lot of the time, people are okay with landing on the first idea that they get and then running with it. And the reality is that ideas are a dime a dozen, but the biggest ideas are uncomfortable and uncommon. And if you know how to get to that point where you go, this is it, it changes everything. So yeah, that's kind of my intro.
Wow. You mentioned 2 things actually. I was looking through the notes of the presentations that we were sharing, and you just mentioned 2 of those things. So the first one is organic is not really organic. You know, you kind of mentioned it. You know, the greatest get to because it seems like it's organic content, it's not paid content. And a lot of people think that organic content means we just show up, we have camera, we just figure it out as it goes. Could you talk a little bit about what the process behind the scenes is, on how much work is actually done, even though it is supposed to be organic content?
So if I understand what you're asking, it's the difference between organic versus inorganic content. Is that right?
I mean, just the fact that even though it's posted on YouTube and it looks very organic, there's actually a lot of work that you spend behind the scenes, even though it just seems like it's supernatural. You know, you were just talking, etc. Could you talk a little bit about how much planning, work, design goes behind the scenes of just a short, maybe a 5-minute video?
Sure. Yeah. You know, and they've got their secrets. It's their kind of their processes. So I don't like to air that out. But I will say that if you can think ahead as to what you're doing, like let's take this environment. So I'm in my home and I wanted to make sure that we had a nice picture for you. So I've got a camera here and a second angle that we can cut to here at any time. So I went ahead and I thought about what could I do to make this better? And that is really where the ideation always starts. Content is meant, if you watch a commercial right now on TV, there's something about it where it's very polished. It looks really good. And, you know, you also know that that's a freaking commercial, right? Like that is clearly their only goal is profit motive, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. That's how the world goes round. At the same time, I don't know that I would trust the person in that commercial or the producer or that company in that commercial. I don't know if I would like trust them with my cat, right? There's something that feels very polished, very inauthentic. This is clearly a composed, thorough production process. And so my unconscious mind looks at that and says, maybe. Like it doesn't totally buy me in. Now, if you can get that look of like, hey guys, I'm on my phone and I'm walking around somewhere and I'm just in the moment and I'm filming, that's real. That's raw. That's organic. Now, in the instance where we're burying somebody alive for 50 hours, or you're going around a Ferris wheel 1,000 times, you know, you have to do some planning in order to make that happen. But then once you set the stage for the most absurd thing you can do, then the idea is you don't need to put cameras on tripods and have this buttoned up thing and, oh, get the shading right. You know, it should be raw and organic. And yes, we set the stage for the most like crazy thing, but then you just go in there and kind of experience it. You capture it as it is, right? So I would say that the difference between organic and inorganic is that one has a little bit more relatability. You feel a little bit like, okay, this person in the video or this commercial itself, it's a little bit more like me. Whereas something that's very polished, like Christopher Nolan level, like big movies or big expensive productions, it feels a little bit less like I can relate to it. And so that is a big difference. And now it doesn't mean that one is better than the other, because if I want to go to a doctor, the last thing I want is for a doctor to be like selfie filming himself. Like, hey guys, I'm in here doing surgery. Like that's terrifying. If he's a doctor, I want to see some polish. I want to see that there's a really good layer of consideration and training to that, right? So it's different. It's a different thing altogether. So it really comes down to, what do you want?
Yeah. I think what I'm hearing is you guys actually plan the ideas out. And once you have an idea of what you want to do, then we just want it to be raw. We want it to be human. We want it to be just live and just look at people's response there and then.
Yeah. 100%.
The next thing I want to talk a little bit about is also some of the stories you were telling. And it's not so much about the ideas you chose, but the ideas you discarded. Because sometimes you guys have conversations and you're just sharing about discarding ideas that were big, but not insane enough. And let's talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people come up with ideas, and most of the time they just, you mentioned absolutely correct. They just think the first idea that they have, and they just think, well, this is big enough. But you inspired me so much because you shared a story about ideas that to me were like really cool, and you guys went, nah, let's discard that because that's not big enough. And I just would love for you to share this story to challenge people. Because when I listened to the story, I thought that was a really cool idea. And it's about discarding ideas that are big but not the biggest.
Sure. Well, there's a new video that, went out, and it was, what is it, like a $300 million or $1 billion ship. It's a very recent video, and it was on the Beast channel. And the biggest ship at the end is this giant cruise ship and then a $300 million yacht before, and it shows them going through each of these different yachts at different price points. Well, 3 years ago, I remember I had a conversation with Jimmy and the executive team, and I brought up this idea. I was like, hey, I think one of the craziest ideas I can imagine right now would be, what if we like rented an entire cruise ship for ourselves? Like, how insane would that be? Because cruise ships have thousands of people. And so if like, who has their own like cruise ship to themselves? That's crazy. And so that one ended up being tossed around, and we started running it through logistics. Like, how would we do that? How would you go about making that happen? And that idea itself was awesome. It would be something like, I rented a cruise ship, which is insane. That's a great idea. But now 3 years later, they were able to take that idea and make it actually even bigger. So now is not only it's, hey, let's just explore a cruise ship together. That kind of sounds like a vlog, right? That kind of sounds like something that a lot of people could do. But to go from a $1 boat to a $10 boat to a $50,000 one, and then the crescendo, the big hit at the end is renting that cruise ship, the stacking of it made it the best, biggest video. If an idea doesn't pass the smell test, if this doesn't seem like, oh my gosh, like this is brilliant, who would have thought of that? We're gonna, have a red button, and then every time we hit the red button, we have to go do a challenge, and we might be massaging someone with a baby doll, or we might have to like dip ourselves in mayonnaise, like absurd things. If those ideas are not big or crazy, they don't pass the test. And, there are a lot of channels that wonder, they go, I'm doing the thing. I'm making my videos. I'm doing this all the time. I have an editor. I'm writing ideas on the whiteboard. I'm pushing myself. And typically people are right. They are pushing. They are first off doing it. They're making content, and that is better than like 90% of the landscape. Most of the time people are not, pushing themselves past even the bigger threshold. Like the fact that they're in there making content's awesome, because if you're not making content, there's nothing to show for it. So, hey, at least I'm doing something, right? Hey, at least I'm putting a video up there. I'm putting numbers on the board. So that's good. But if you're going to do that, you might as well push it the extra mile. And so, that's a big part of why clients will hire us to consult with them and say, hey, look, your videos are good. They could be better. Your videos exist, but they don't make sense. And so that's what we do, is we help people get them over the finish line. So Biggest Agency has now been able to travel all over the world. We were in Jerusalem, in Israel recently. We've been to London with you. We traveled to Italy for a bit. So we've been able to really see that this impact, it's not just an American thing. In America, where it's like everybody wants to push their ideas further, right? And so everybody wants to understand what they can do better. It's just not obvious to them. So we're actually going to be releasing courses too for people that can't come here physically, or we can't go to them. So that'll be an exciting thing to allow people to really gestate and ideate how that works. But for now, we have just a handful of people that we work with, and every time we push them and we say, hey, throw that idea out, and it hurts. Like, I don't want to throw that idea out. That's my baby. I just gave birth to that thing, I'm pushing the boundaries here, man. And it's like, I know, I get it. It's uncomfortable, but trust me, throw it out the window, out the 12 stories, just push again. And then when you do that over time, you get a sense of why that other idea wasn't good. In the past, you were just like, yeah, I don't know. I can tell like I could probably do better. But then if you do that enough, it's like this, like if you do a podcast enough, the first few times it's rough. You're like, I'm like trying to figure out how to talk. I'm trying to figure out how to like, what do I say? How do I make content? But then if you do it enough, you become a lot more adept to it, a lot more articulate. Things flow to you easily. And so ideas and coming up with the biggest idea that you can have, it kind of works in the same way. It's like a muscle. Like you really have to push it. And it's not somewhere accessible like your bicep or your leg. It's in your head. I don't know where it is. I'm not a brain surgeon, but it's somewhere in there. And so you got to find it. You got to work with it, be friends with it. And then you got to work it out.
Yeah. I just got a great question, which is, most of the videos we see on YouTube, or just people shooting in general, you gave a great demonstration in London, is hey guys, blah, 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 which I thought was hilarious, because right after that, I thought to myself, sounds like my videos, and then like the typical person, and then also the great question is, how come up with ideas and how contrast it with most of the videos that are shot these days? How, based on yourself being in this industry for so long, what is your view on how most videos are shot these days? And what is your idea generation process? And when do you know when to throw it out or when to get crazier with it also? How about walking us through like behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll answer the first part of that, which is what other people are doing today, right? And the thing of it is have you ever heard of the story of the 4-minute mile?
Yeah.
So the 4-minute mile, for people that don't know, it was basically a physically impossible feat to do because no one was able to do it. Doctors said, if you try and run an entire mile, which I don't know what that is in kilometers, but we're Americans over here, so we use miles. I don't know why we use feet and miles. It's kind of dumb, but that's what we do. If you try and run an entire mile, the strain, it would be so intense that somebody's heart would explode. There's no way you could do a full mile in like 4 minutes. And then the first dude that did it, it was tough, but he did it. I don't know the guy's name, but he achieved it. And then what was weird is that everybody else started doing it. So the first time someone broke the 4-minute mile, everybody else went, okay, I guess it's physically possible. Like, what the heck? I'm going to try it. And then one by one, more and more people started running an entire mile in 4 minutes. It was crazy. So now the whole internet can see what happens if you bury somebody alive for 50 hours. You get 280 million views. That's what happens. You give away fully furnished houses for $1, 200 million views. So people now have a visible representation of somebody doing something insane, is my point.
Wow.
So now content is really starting to level up. I have friends that we met them, while they would come onto the channel as a contestant. My buddy Zealous, he was a small YouTuber. I think he had 100,000 subscribers. And the game that we played was, okay, here's this diamond play button that you only get if you hit 10 million subscribers. We're going to stick it in the middle of this room, and we're going to have 4 people. They're going to put their hands on it. The last to leave gets a shout out, because otherwise we would blur their faces at times, or we wouldn't tell you what the channel is. So you had no idea who they were, but they wanted to win. And so they ended up, my friend Zealous ends up winning the contest, gets a big shout out, his channel blows up, and now he's pushing the boundaries on his content. And I see it happen, like, compared to before to now, he's really started saying, well, what was I not doing before? How close to the problem was I? And was I not allowing myself to really think through this? And so channel after channel, you take Ryan Trahan, right? Ryan Trahan crossed the entire country carrying a penny. And it was the most absurd thing. And people thought, oh, daily vlogs are dead. But then he did it in such an interesting way that people couldn't stop. They couldn't miss the next episode. They had to watch. And suddenly Ryan Trahan got I think it was either 5-10 million subscribers in 6 months. Broke Jake Paul's record, broke a bunch of channels' records. No one could believe it. We're like, look what this kid did. Why? Because it was real, right? It was organic. It was authentic. And he did. I don't want to walk across the United States, okay? It's huge. That would suck. I would not want to do that. But if I were to do that and I legitimately proved that I did it, oh my gosh, that's a good video, So really what I see and what I understand is that a lot of times people now are not willing to do something uncomfortable because it's the 21st century, baby. We got iPhones. Why the heck would I do something uncomfortable? I got a fridge. And in that fridge is food that someone else prepared for me. I didn't kill the cow. I didn't do any of that stuff. So I'm in a world of convenience. And so the idea of stepping outside of that convenience to do something crazy on camera, a lot of people don't want to do it. So that's where a lot of times channels fall off, is because they're not willing to put themselves in uncomfortable positions. I'll give you a little insider information. So me and then the boys at Beast were obsessed with anime. Love it. I'm Naruto fan for life. We love Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, you name it. And the thing of it is those are gigantic shows. They'll have hundreds of episodes, a lot. Yeah. And so Jimmy always said he didn't want to do things if it didn't make him money, but he loved anime. So what do? Well, I'm going to put headphones on and I'm going to say Logan Paul 100,000 times, and I'm going to stream it for 36 hours. And I'm going to make content out of it. And it was absurd. And I don't know if people watched it all the way, but the point was he was making money while he was watching this, I think he was watching reruns of Boruto or something, but he didn't want to do anything if he didn't have some means of monetizing it. Right. So that's uncomfortable. And he put himself in an uncomfortable place where he's going to sit in a chair for 36 hours and do something crappy like that, because he gets to watch anime on the side. If you bury yourself alive, or this new one that went out, they were on a raft for 7 days. We went through so much physical, arduous work. Any of the challenges that would go over 24 hours, there were complications around using the bathroom. People got tired. You have to force yourself to potentially get uncomfortable. And I'm not saying that every channel needs to be this extreme physical display of toughness. It doesn't have to be that. In fact, so many channels now are starting to kind of look like MrBeast copies. My thought with that is I like it because now we're seeing more variations of crazier stuff. My buddy Tyler Oliveira, he dug a gigantic hole in the ground using only a spoon. And it went like 12 feet deep. And it was crazy, right? And that's like some extreme content. Like that's like MrBeast type of content, right? And he went, oh my gosh, this guy, he rented a boat and he went all the way over to Jeffrey Epstein's island, broke into it. Yeah. Oh, it's crazy, man. He like had his buddies in the boat. They're flying drones and they're trying to be like, this is where that weird blue temple thing that guy had. He's on there vlogging that he broke into Epstein's island. Who the hell does that? That's crazy. But that's what he did. And so you sometimes have to push the idea. It doesn't mean that you have to go to Epstein's house. I don't recommend that. But it does mean that your bandwidth for what you think is a good idea, it's probably not as high as it could be, right? So my ideation process is I want to get something out. What's my goal? Well, my goal is I want to talk about something. Let's talk about fame. Fame's an interesting one. I've spent a lot of time around famous people. Jason Alexander from Seinfeld, Lance Armstrong. I was on a bunch of TV shows on Nickelodeon and Disney Channel growing up, child actor. So my whole life, I've been around people that are objectively, measurably very famous. And what I've noticed is that fame is a bit of like a drug, like people really get hooked on it. So let's say that, pausing that, that's what I want to talk about. Here's my topic. There it is. Let's talk about fame. That's so interesting, right? Because people go, oh my gosh, I would love to know about that, right? What's fame? Give me insights. I then go, what's the most interesting way I can approach talking about fame? Then I double click on that because my first approach, okay, let's talk about the celebrities that I know. Probably not, right? Let's talk about the psychological parts of it. Can I cite articles? Can I talk about this? Like I landed on an idea. I have a direction in front of me. And then I have my first initial thought, but it's not obvious to me that that's the best one. So then I'll double click, I'll zoom in, right? I'm zooming in on my idea. And then if I get to a point where I'm like, man, the weeds, am I too lost on this one idea? Zoom out and then go, okay, well, maybe I need to pivot. Maybe I need to look at this differently. And I'll do that over and over and over again on an idea. And people go, why the heck would you do? It's a short. You're just going to put a short on TikTok or YouTube. Like, why are you overanalyzing it? Because the difference is I overanalyzed it. And if you can do that, and if you can come up with a clear plan on how to speak to people in a way that they've never heard before, you do something phenomenal. And it may not be a 10 million view video, the first one that you publish, but you went that extra mile, and that makes all the difference. So figure out what it is you want to talk about, what your idea is, double click on it until you have to do a little research, double click on it again. Are you still on the right track? Is this very interesting to you? Is this very interesting to other people? See, what happens is people, they make videos, but like those videos don't make sense. Like a lot of the time. You're like, hey guys, like I'm just here and I've got this like, this world-class broom, and this broom will clean your floor so fast, and it's got these bristles and they're made out of ladybug tears, and like this is going to blow your mind. And it's like, okay, but I don't care. Like you don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm not thinking about brooms right now. I'm not thinking about that. I was watching House of Cards on Netflix, and now I'm getting interrupted with the broom guy. Like I don't want to see that. Or I want to watch cat videos. My Instagram is all cat videos. And so that's what I want to watch. I don't care about broom guy, right? So how do you make your video make sense? How do you make your idea make sense to someone else? Because it's not obvious to most people when they're sharing an idea, they think it makes sense in their head. They're like, oh yeah, it's super clear. And my mouth is explaining it to you. My brain is connecting to my mouth and I'm sharing the idea. But because it makes sense to them, it does not mean that it makes sense to anybody on the receiving end of it. So you got to question your own assumptions, click on it again. And then if you feel like, you know what, I'm starting to realize that with the more thought, the more digging I did, maybe this isn't the best thing. Toss it and get onto your new idea.
As a creator, oh my God, so much thought goes into the whole thing. It's just not a guy filming it or doing crazy things. It's
crazy. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, the ideation process is like, wow. I want to talk a little bit about courage and comfort. Because first of all, once you come up with the idea, you kind of know it. I now know what you mean by the litmus test. Because you kind of know it because, and you mentioned this at the London event, and now I'm just getting more insights into it. You kind of hit it when you feel a little bit scared. And you're like,
yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
That's right.
That, right. You
like, what are you going to do? Are you going to backpack through, you're in Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to backpack from one end to the other. Hey man, you better have some good shoes. That's a scary idea, but also people might love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think when you hit that, that idea that scares you is definitely uncomfortable. And I think let's talk a little bit about uncomfortable and why uncomfortable is probably the secret also, because I think most people are finding ideas in their comfort zone. And I think that's why I love the other about your talk. Most people are like, all right, cool. They're either in their comfort zone or the social comfort zone, which is I see a bunch of people, they're all doing this. I will do this because it's safe. And let's talk about uncomfortable also. Then and why uncomfortable is good. Then after uncomfortable, let's talk about courage also, which is like, am I going to be the only person to do that? People hate it. Oh my God. So let's talk about both of these things. Uncomfortable, outside the comfort zone, and courage.
That's right. Well, yeah, I mean, the comfort zone, I mean, the most accessible, version of understanding that is like working out, like you have to put your body through physical uncomfort in order to get results, right? You're going to do like bicep curls. That's going to hurt. And if it doesn't hurt, congrats, you're not doing it right. And so when your ideation process, like our whole body is connected in that same way. So our mind relies on signals that it gives that it's receiving from our body. Hey, I'm starting to feel nervous about that. What am I going to do? Go up to strangers in public and interview them about their politics or their religious beliefs? Or I'm going to show them, like, let's say I'm a shoe company. And so my idea is I'm going to take a shoe and I'm going to go out in public in town square and I'm going to run up to them and be like, what do you think about this shoe? If your stomach starts to go, oh my gosh, like I don't want to do that. Congratulations. You are approaching a boundary of comfort. This is something that if you can push through it, you will A, find better ideas, and B, you're going to be proud of yourself for doing it. Because every single time I didn't take a leap of faith, I always regretted it. In the United States, we have Boy Scouts. Well, we did. I think it went bankrupt. But Boy Scouts is like a really big thing, for me and my religious upbringing. So I went to Boy Scout camp. And so I learned how to tie knots. I learned how to like pitch a tent, start a fire, wilderness survival, bow and arrow, all this stuff. And it was like I loved it. It was my life. And one of the days at the scout camp that I went to, they said, hey guys, we're going to go rappelling. And at that time I was staff. No, I was a camper there at the time. I ended up working there later. So they say, we're going to go rappelling. I'm like, what the crap is that? Oh, well, we have this 50-foot rock face, or maybe it was taller. In my head, it seems like 1,000,000 feet. And we're going to have you walk backwards on rope and you're going to descend. I think I was 12 years old at the time. And I was terrified because I'd never done that before. I'm not afraid of heights, but also like everything about my animal instincts as a human being, as an evolved human being says, don't walk backwards off a cliff. That seems really obvious. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up there. I got roped in, all this stuff. My crew, what do they call them? My tribe? Gosh, I can't even remember now. So they're all watching me and I'm roped in and I'm like, am I going to do this? Am I going to walk backwards off this cliff? This dude seems to know what he's doing. He says I'm fine. He's giving me the thumbs up, but this is terrifying. So the moment comes, I'm strapped in. I got my harness and he says, okay, kid, go. And I didn't do it. I freaked out. I told him, pull me back up. I can't do it. I think about that every day. So every time I approach a boundary, something that makes me uncomfortable. And since then, by the way, I've rappelled many times off of much higher cliffs, but as a kid, I couldn't get myself to do it. But every time I approached something that was uncomfortable, it pushed me way outside of what I was ready to do, even if walking off a cliff is kind of an extreme example. Every time I approached that and I did it, I was so thankful that I did. I didn't know if I was going to get any results off of making this, hey, hire me video, Logan Paul, hire me. I had no idea. But that one moment of uncomfort, of this is kind of inconvenient and I have no guarantees and yada, yada. I sent it, I did the thing, and the results speak for themselves. So when somebody is approaching an idea and they think, this is kind of a comfort zone thing, like, okay, I like gaming. I like Call of Duty. I like Fortnite. I'll be a Fortnite creator and then I'll stream Fortnite or I'll stream Call of Duty. Well, get in line. Get in line. That's a huge line. There's a lot of people doing that. What could you do that's super different? Could you do something? Could you run around and play Fortnite in real life? Well, lots of people have parodied that, but could you find an even more interesting way of doing it? As an example, right? Could it be Fortnite versus Star Wars? How far can you push this absurd idea? Because there are no rules. And I think that's a weird thing that we all kind of start like, we like invent rules sometimes. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but you can like go outside and just do stuff. You can do whatever you want. You know, don't break the law, but you can do whatever you want. If you come back to this podcast, that Brady guy said I can break the law. Not the move. But you can basically go and come up with anything. We're in a sandbox. And so sometimes we come up with these rules like, oh, I'm not that person. I couldn't talk in front of a camera. I couldn't share myself because they have to be like big personalities like that friggin' Brady guy. No. YouTube is so big now. And there are so many different personalities on this planet. In fact, YouTube is so big that 80% of the phones in the world come pre-installed with it, right? Everybody thinks that the world is run by iPhone, Apple dominates the market. The reality is that 4 out of 5 people don't have iPhones, right? We're all on the internet, but a lot of them are on Android. Maybe somebody listening to this right now, maybe they're listening to it on a Samsung, right? And so that device comes pre-installed with YouTube. That means that the entire world is coming online to YouTube. That means there are a lot of personality diversity. There's a massive distribution. And if you talk a certain way, and maybe you're like really in the weeds on Legos, like maybe you love Legos, or you're the guy that loves, collecting like mugs or something, like you love like nice coffee mugs and you've got thousands of them. You know what? There's going to be coffee mug obsessors too. And they're going to look for coffee mug obsessors on YouTube. So any person, if they can push themselves outside of the boundary of wherever they're limited and can push their ideas further, anybody can do this. You just may not do it the same way that MrBeast does. You just need to find your own thing. And finding your own thing is the biggest blessing ever. Because when you find it, dude, like when you land on that, when you really feel like you found your thing, it's like, this is what I was made for. I wasn't made to sell pest control accounts and kill spiders and bugs. I wasn't made to make Jamba Juice smoothies, which is a job that I used to do. I wasn't made to work in finance. I was made to tell stories. I was made to help people make videos better. I was made to understand what a human is saying, even if it's a different language or they're using different symbols or their hobbies are different. I don't care. I want to understand and absorb all of them. And then I'll share my version of that and I'll share that with them. And that's real connection. That's why you feel like this, right? Like you feel connected to me because I'm sharing all of me with you. And that is something you have to learn too.
Yeah, wow. I think that is wow. Because we kind of started this because I think maybe people came on because they wanted to get more views on YouTube and make some money. Then they started to go in the area of creation that big ideas and people were like, oh my God, I'm not sure. And then,
that's right. They ran off to go film.
Then after a while, it turned into self-expression and it turned into discovering who you are and discovering, sharing authentically every part of yourself. So it started with like, let's just do some videos and get views. And it's like, oh my God, this is actually a self process, discovering yourself.
Yeah. It's really about finding yourself, like more than I think people realize.
And giving yourself permission to be that and to really just do that entirely. I think that is really the cool thing. Let's talk a little bit about story because I think ultimately after a while it's a video. It's not just a video, and I think I want to convey that because all the videos you talk about with the biggest idea, it sounds a lot after a while like it's a movie. And it's a short movie because that's what a movie does. He is a director, he's a script writer. That's what you guys do, and they have a big idea and got actors inside. And really, this is not just a guy with a phone. It's a mini movie, and it's a story, and that's why people like it. The walking around the States is a story. What makes a good story? What makes a good character? How do you know you have a good story? Do you need to take people through the ups and downs? What makes a good character?
Yeah. Well, as humans, our languages, our cultures, everything has been passed down. It used to be cave drawings and now it's stories told, or it used to be stories told over the campfire, right? We would huddle around the cave and we would talk about the saber-toothed tiger that we saw out there and don't go down this dirt path because that's full of thorns. We would use these things of telling information to each other. And then at some point we must have figured out that if I say, if I say something to you and I just say it as facts. I just kind of spit it out and it's boring. That's one way of conveying information. But you know what? I got a lot of information to process. Like, my brain's busy all the time. And so the more interesting thing is if you can tell a story, right? So when I tell a story about, you start anywhere, you start any story, and suddenly you have a purpose, you have a beginning, a middle, and end. Now somebody is getting a takeaway from it in addition to information. And you can wrap that up in a lot of ways. Stories specifically, it's good to have a lot of them memorized and you have them ready, right? So if you want to talk about like a video that went, south or didn't see the light of day, right? We did this one video, and I'll tell you this story, see? So you can see how we set it up. Okay, I want to share something with you, and here's what happened. Well, everywhere, there are storage containers, right? If people have too much stuff, which is a huge problem in the United States, people have way too much stuff. If you have too much, you can put it in a storage container, and then if you don't pay for it after a while, guess what? They own your stuff. So it's kind of a risk. You better pay your bills. We realized that this is actually a very interesting thing because you have no idea what's going to be in any of these storage units, right? So we thought, what if we went and it was like a treasure hunt? Oh, see, now how excited are we because it's a treasure hunt? This is an interesting story. I'm building it, right? So now we're going to go on this treasure hunt. We're going to find and buy storage units that people didn't pay for. They defaulted on it. They sat there for a couple of years, and by law, it's no longer their property. So what happens is when people lose control of their storage units, those storage units go on an auction. So people are saying, I'd like to buy this unit. I don't know what's inside of it, but I'd like to buy this for X amount of money. So people will bid. So we went there, hidden cameras, and we sat in there in disguise. We didn't want people to know who we were. And so we were sitting there bidding, like, we'll buy that storage unit. And it bugged other people because they were like making their living out of this. And we were just YouTube kids with a lot of money. So we're like, well, sorry, we're going to outbid everybody. We got 50 different storage units. We would roll the door up, light would flood in. See, now I'm painting a visual picture. This is how stories are told. Light would flood in, and you would see boxes and boxes of like tax documents. Or one of them that we opened was floor to ceiling full of Trump 2016 merchandise. And we're like, how did this get here? You have no idea what's going to be inside. Opening one after another, we could not believe the things that we found. Right now, there's the conclusion to that. So what we did is we took all of these items in moving trucks, threw them all into a big warehouse, and sorted them all out. Thousands and thousands of things. We couldn't believe it. As far as you could see, random crap from people that left them and forgot about them years ago. And so we started sifting through them, and we started interacting with them and making jokes and giving them to the movers that were helping us. And then we got to the end of the video, and Jimmy decided he didn't like it because it felt weird because that was like other people's stuff. And he's like, that doesn't feel right. So then he made all these efforts to try and get all that stuff back to people, and he never posted the video. Now that's a good story because that's not how you expected it to end. And you also were remembered, oh, wow, yeah, that's a really good guy, And in the back of your head, maybe you go, oh, is that weird? Because that was other people's stuff. And so it's a little bit of that and a little bit of this. A story makes you feel something. Yeah. And a lot of that's in the delivery. And a lot of that is in what you pick to talk about. So don't pick boring stuff. And also when you talk, be like an interesting person to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have a great idea and you walk them through a journey. Because the way you shared it, right, it was a very fascinating idea. And it's a fascinating journey also. It always has an interesting conclusion at the end also. So I think that's like a YouTube thing. And a video thing, great idea, and the journey, right? You walk us through the journey. Now a little bit strange and never ending because I was like, but it's definitely a memorable ending. It definitely makes me feel something.
Right, 100%. Yeah, man,
that is crazy good. That is let's talk about this one exercise you had us do, where you talk about who you see behind the camera. I thought that was one of the most brilliant exercises you've ever got. You had us do two things which I thought was great. One was like, what's your superpower? Who are you at Christmas? Just to get people to lighten up and not put on a front. You know what? Let's talk about that first. The idea that most people put on a front in front of the video, how become natural? Because most of people are like, this is a video, I need to, and they sound all of a sudden they're so cool outside, but when the video camera's on, it's so weird, like
right,
stiff.
You know, I mean, if you see in like Zoom calls, you know, we're so kind of like fascinated with seeing our own face. And so we'll like get lost in the weeds. Like we'll just sit there and kind of be like, oh, I'm on a FaceTime call, but I'm kind of just staring at my front facing camera. Like I'm not really looking at the person I'm talking to. I'm kind of like, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just wildly announcing like some closet narcissism or something. But I feel like most people kind of, when they get a camera on, they kind of can't help but stare. And then they're staring at themselves. And then they're like, what am I going to say when I'm staring at myself? Like, it's like, how do I deliver content in that way? And that can kind of trip people up. And so getting used to looking into a camera where maybe you don't see yourself, that's also another thing, because now you've got this big looking computer monstrosity with a lens, and now it's staring at me. And like, what am I supposed to say? Like, how do I like turn on the thing that's me and do it here, you know, for the camera? Like, what do I do? So what I like to invite people to think about is my favorite holiday, which is Christmas, because Christmas is awesome. We have a thunderstorm going on outside. We're in the desert. This does not happen very often, so very lucky. I think about Christmas time. I'm with my people. I'm with my mom. I love my mom. I love my sister, my brother. I love my family. And when we get together, I've known these people for 32 years. Unless we have a weird relationship, I really don't have to hide anything. And so I get to be like me, like comfortable me, right? And so when you can think about who comfortable you is, and usually that's at Christmas and a holiday, when you're in a comfortable place, or maybe you're hanging out with friends and it's late at night, you're a couple drinks in, and you know, PlayStation 5's on, or you're watching Netflix, like you're just like, you can turn to somebody and your walls are down. And when your walls are down, it's okay to just be you. And that's process A. Process B is you have to know what you're saying. You have to know kind of what you're going for. Because if you don't have a clear mission, like, okay, I want to help people get more organized. I want them to be more efficient with their time. So I've put in the legwork, and I've actually worked on what it is I want to say. Here's how you have time optimizing hacks. I have a whole list. I read the books. I really know this stuff. And so then when I learn how to let my walls down, I can let that stuff out. A lot of times people will turn on the camera and they'll have nothing to say because they didn't do the work. But you have to know your subject. You have to know what it is you're wanting to talk about. And then that works hand in hand with, I have practiced being normal, and not just like I am a functioning robot in society, but I am like normal me, like me that my mom sees, or me that like my best friends see, me that like is comfortable and familiar. And even if you and I have only met one time and we've got people here watching, I'm okay with just like being me. Because if you judge me for it, I could not care less. But I don't think you will. I think it's going to be more interesting and educational. So I'm just like, hey, cool. Let's just like take the boxing gloves off. I have nothing to hide. You know, let's talk. Let's be me, right? And if you do that enough with practice, right? Everything is practice and iterations. If you do that enough, you find this like this harmonious like equilibrium and alignment with yourself. You don't have to be somebody else. You're living a double life and you're like secretly an assassin, but then also you work, you know, at McDonald's on Thursdays. Like if you live this really conflicting life, you're also going to have a hard time tapping into that. Unless you're a sociopath, then you're really good at it. But beyond that, if you can be authentic and just consistently be that in your life, you're going to find that it shows up easier on camera.
Yeah. Wow. What exercise they had us do also, which I thought was so profound. I'm not sure how you did this visualization thing. You had us not only like, you know, 10 minutes. Yeah, it was such a brilliant exercise. Oh my God. Just like, you know, really imagining that the people behind the screen, right, behind the camera, looking into that lens, like you. Because I think another fear that I wanted to ask you, right, when you say you know all this stuff, right, someone's in the comments going to be, man, screw this guy, what the hell is this shit, and blah, 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 right? And then people get scared. They're like, oh my God, you hate me, I'm going to get canceled, I'm no friends. But you just exercise and know that at the end of the day, the people behind the screen might be, they like your stuff, they resonate with you. Could you talk a little bit about that? What was the exercise?
I like you. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I guess for context, one of my business partners, actually the co-owner of biggest agency with me, his name is William Lam. He's from Hong Kong, and he is a genius. Literally one of my favorite people on this planet. And he has spent millions of dollars traveling the world, taking different learnings from different groups, from different psychological trainings to neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis. So he's a board certified master hypnotist. And I have been able to travel the world with him over the last couple of years. and learn a lot of stuff from him. One of the things that our brain does, and this is amazing if you think about it, our brain is usually guarding itself. It's kind of protecting itself. It's taking care of itself because you know what? I am surrounded by friends right now, but I could round the corner outside and there's a pack of hyenas, or there's some crazy dude that wants to take my lunch money. So I've got to defend myself a little bit. So we put these walls up. And then past that, we put mental walls up because everybody's trying to sell you something. And I don't think that all of them have my best interests. So I gotta ignore some of that really cheesy commercial, or it's too shiny, or it's too, I don't trust that. And so my mind deflects it. It kicks it out, right? There's a process that I learned from William called trance, right? So it's similar. Someone could call it hypnosis. You could call it trance. You can call it meditation. Meditation is usually the easiest, most accessible version of that. And what it does is it gets you like comfortable in a way that you're not freaking out over everything. You're not filtering everything out. You're not rejecting things. Think about this, Melvin. If you go to a movie theater and you watch a movie, right? And it's awesome. And you're there, you got your popcorn, you got your Coke, there's the trailers, and here we are. Oh boy, big room. I'm watching a movie. And then the guy flies into screen and he's got red underwear on and he's got a cape and he's flying in the air. Imagine if the guy next to you stood up, threw his popcorn at the screen and said, "No way, that's not real. No one can fly. And no one wears their underwear like that. This is ridiculous." And he walks out. No one would do that. When you go to a movie theater, your reservations, your filters, your walls, they all come down. I'm not there to see truth unless, that's the movie. I'm there in a suspended disbelief. Someone can wear red underwear outside and fly around. I don't care. I'm not filtering it out. I'm here for a good time. So you can get somebody in a similar state and relaxed if you take some of the right steps, which we typically will only do live. We'll probably have some of it in our online courses. So I'm not going to do it right now on a podcast, but you can get somebody in a relaxed, altered state. And you can invite them into suggestions, things that are better for them. And when those walls are down and you're not going, "Oh, what is he trying to do? He's going to try and make me bark like a dog." No, like you just relax. Everything's fine. You trust me. It is okay. I've proven that. Then you can start to help them find truth or comfort in something that's hard. So let's take looking into the camera, right?
Yep.
Let's take, who do you speak to? If I'm looking into a camera and I'm looking into a lens, it's an unfriendly, hard computer looking thing with glass. That's not my friend. But if I look into the lens and I imagine my girlfriend, if I look into the lens and I imagine some of my best friends, people that I work with, and I see them there and like that's who I'm talking to, and I can guide you through that process and imagine who it is you're speaking to when you look at that lens, what'll happen is over time, every time you look at the lens, you're actually seeing a friend. It's not just a camera. It's somebody that you feel like familiar with. When you do that, whether it's your mom at Christmas or it's your friends watching Netflix, there's like a version of you that seems to come out and it's so much better, right? It's like this authentic you and people love it. And then I don't freak out because I'm staring into a camera like, what am I saying? Oh my gosh, I'm in my head. It's just, it's friends. I don't freak out when I'm talking to friends. If I make a wrong phrasing of a word, or I say a word that doesn't exist, my friends don't judge me. And so that's who's looking at me in the camera. And that's what we teach people to imagine and work through and anchor.
Yeah, wow. I think that's just amazing because, first of all, the first exercise makes people more natural, because otherwise they put on this like, "Hello, everybody. My name is Melvin." It's not any school thing, right? So first one makes them natural. And the second one is realize that the people watching want them to succeed. That was the one thing that I wrote down is that, a lot of people are afraid that, all this bunch of haters watching your stuff, but I would say they probably exist. But a lot of people that watch your stuff want you to succeed. They want you to be the best version of you. And that's why they watch it. I'm not sure I've watched that many things that I hate.
Heck yeah. That's such a good point. How much are you watching stuff that you hate? That sounds psychotic. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I got a couple of questions more. And the first question I have is, after you shoot all of these, how do you know it's ready to go? What's your cutting ideas? What's your cutting philosophy? Do we release it raw? Do we slice it all down to just really the snappiest moments? How do we put it out there in terms of the image, right? These days people keep playing around with different images, etc. And what's the title? Any just short nuggets that they can do to help some of the folks here who after they've shot this stuff, how do we go about releasing it?
Okay. Yeah. So if I understand your question, you're saying, hey, we've got a lot of creators in this, in this live stream, and we're going to have a lot of creators watch this. And so they're in the process of making videos. Do you have any tips and advice for the end-to-end process? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Towards the end, after they've come out with the idea, after they shot it, now it's just this thing. What's your thought process behind editing?
Okay.
Putting it on YouTube, and they have the sexual titling it, thumbnailing it, whatever you the whole release process.
That's a good question, man. Well, I would say for one, have a good group of friends. And I know that that's like, oh, great. Well, if someone has no friends, they're like, great, flicks off the podcast. But if you have a good group of friends, and a good group of friends means someone that will tell you things that maybe you don't want to hear. So if you're the only one like watching the videos and like no one else is seeing them, you have one opinion on how good it is. And what happens is I've edited for a long time, well before I picked up a camera. And I got really good at just watching like the same clip like 100 times if I needed to, because I got to cut this, I got to get the dialogue tight, I want to make sure it flows, how's the music hit? And so I'm okay with like watching a video 100 times. So I trust that my intuition's really good. Why? Because I'm the editor. Of course it's good. That's literally my job. So I can make a video really good. However, just because it makes sense to me, right? This is what we were talking about earlier. Just because it makes sense to me does not mean it makes sense to somebody else. So the best thing to do is to have a good group of friends and be okay showing them that. And then have them at times kick you in the teeth, like hit you with something hard. Like, hey, if you've got any like soft advice on this, I would love all of it. But also if you've got like a kick me in the teeth moment, I'm setting the stage for you, my friend, to kick me in the teeth a little bit on, hey, I really don't like this thing in your edit, So you have to set that boundary and say, hey, look, I'm opening the door to really harsh criticism, which means that you have to be okay with like harsh criticism. And well, you should be, but a lot of people aren't, Like it's not always the easiest thing to be comfortable with harsh criticism, but you have to put yourself in the shoes of the cold viewer. There's going to be complete strangers that you'll never know, that you'll never meet in your life. And their life is so freaking different from your life. Like the foods they like are different, the shows they like, their thoughts sound weird. Like if you were to string it all out and be like, oh yeah, everybody thinks like this in their head just because I like me. That's not true. Like, and if you don't know that, meet people, get to know people, and you learn none of us are the same. And so because none of us are the same, just because you think like a video is good, doesn't really mean that it would be. So you have to trust your team, trust your friends, show them something before it goes out, but also trust your instincts, because you know what? They could be wrong, but it's good to gut check yourself. Take the feedback, mull it over, try it. If it makes sense, go back in the edit, move this around, change this color, brighten that image, add this sound, remove that song sucked, do some of those things. But you know what? Make a copy of that project. Like it's not obvious that they're right, but you can have a duplicate of what you're doing, and what you just got it to. And then, okay, well, I'll make a copy of this. This is the project file plus friend feedback Premiere Project Pro. And then that project you can edit and add the little effects that they recommend, whatever the hell. And if it's not good, it's your content at the end of the day. So also stick up for yourself.
Yeah.
So there are two things. Have good friends that will tell you things, set good boundaries with them, allow them in, but also stick up for yourself because you might be right.
Do you ever spend a lot of time thinking about thumbnails, about like, making things crazy, because people have like different rules on that kind of stuff? Found out a lot of people these days are copying the MrBeast type title, right?
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Like everyone's doing that kind of thing also. Any thoughts on where thumbnails and titles in general are going these days? Like what has worked, what doesn't work?
Yeah, that's a great question, honestly. So like the thumbnail's the first thing people see, it's the very first thing. So people think, oh, like we got to have like a cool photo of all of our faces, because then it's like, oh, look at that group. That looks fun. I want to watch that video. That's not what they're going to think. No one's going to think that. They don't know your face. If you're a big creator or you have subscribers, they might recognize your face. There's a lot of faces. It's 8 billion faces. So a thumbnail is an opportunity to be as interesting as freaking possible and to have the most compelling, fascinating thing to visually grab somebody in like 1 second. And if your thumbnail sucks, it's not the end of the world, but also you've got to realize that the very first interaction somebody has with you, like the first time you meet somebody, right? Everyone says first impressions are important. And that is the same with content, with thumbnails, with videos. So your thumbnail is not a place for you to list the title of your video. That's what the freaking title's for. Like, you don't need to put that there. You know, it might be a place to put 2 or maybe 3 really big, interesting words, and then maybe someone's shocked. And maybe if there's like a beautiful woman or something you can put into it, or an interesting product that everybody's buying, or you can put really vibrant colors. The thumbnail should be bright. It should be like visually, like, oh my gosh, like I can't look away at that, you know? Think about, can somebody look away at this? I need to push it harder. If I can make this like a fascinating picture, then I'm doing it right. There's become this whole sub-industry, and it's all very popular on Twitter, of people that have just become thumbnail artists. And how does that happen? Because it's a unique art form. Like, small, tiny pictures that are somehow so interesting you have to click on it. Like, what the crap is that? Well, it's kind of a sub-industry. And so really, you know, I don't know if all credit should go to MrBeast. Maybe all of it should, because his thumbnails are amazing. But he figured out, and a lot of other creators figured out, that most of the time you're getting a video on your recommended feed. So recommended off to the side after you watch a video. Hey, you know, I gotta hang this picture on the wall. And oh my gosh, what is that photo over there? What is the title? Oh, or when you land on YouTube homepage, first thing you see are the thumbnails. And so your thumbnail is not an opportunity for you to like put a picture of you and your friends. If no one knows your face, don't put your face on it. Put something interesting there. And then the content should speak for itself. So by the time they click on the video, you were immediately fulfilling payoff. So if I say I destroyed 1,000 chairs with a sledgehammer, then the very first thing that you need to see when I click on that, first off, that's going to be a crazy thumbnail, right? I think we're all starting to imagine, how could you show 1,000 piled up destroyed chairs? Like, that's kind of bananas, right? Like, what would that look like? Okay, well, 1,000 chairs, man, that would probably be like 20 feet tall, and it would be like me with a sledgehammer, and I'm like really small compared to it, right? That's an interesting thumbnail. You're like, why would he do that? What a stupid thing to do, but it's funny, right? So if I click on the video, then boom, like I got the thumbnail concept correct. Then you got to not hit, hey guys, so really excited to destroy these 1,000 chairs with you. Really quick, I just wanted to talk about this. Like, if you can subscribe to like my channel or like get my merch, then that's really going to help us. And by the way, I just wanted to show you like a quick update. You notice we replaced the refrigerator. That sucks. No one wants to watch that. That worked for a while. That worked for a while on a lot of channels, because you would really only make revenue if you could get people to about 7-8 minutes. And so they would basically just front loaded with nonsense, like talking and some like light commentary and kind of some content, but they would save what was in the thumbnail and in the title. They would save that for the end of the video because they had to hit monetizing. And YouTube knew that. YouTube figured it out. They're like, oh, you're gaming the system. Well, that sucks. You know, we're not going to incentivize that. YouTube cares about, did they click on your video over like all the other videos we showed? Really? Oh, you had a good thumbnail. Okay. Hold on. They're staying on the video. They're 3 minutes in. You son of a gun, what did you do? Because we gave them a lot of other videos. There's a lot of good creators. We tried recommending them, but you figured something out. We'll send you more views, of course. When you can overthink the process and you can step into the shoes of the cold viewer, you will find that that extra analysis, that extra thought, dude, it makes all the difference.
Wow. That's good stuff. That's excellent. Final question here. What is Brady's prediction in the world of AI, content creation, the future of how this will look like, right? So these days you got AI, there's a writer's strike right now in Hollywood, the studios think the AI is going to write the scripts for future movies, so will AI replace all of these things? Will we start, you doing a mid-journey and then the need for creators? So or will we go the other side and people get sick of AI stuff and they want more human stuff? So thoughts?
That's a really good question, right? Everybody probably knows someone that can code, right? They can code a website, they can code an app. And so what happened when AI blew up was good coders, like top tier, full stack coders, they realized that this is an opportunity because they're like, dude, this is great. I got to do way less work and I can have more irons in the fire. So if I need to get to this, I just need to be smartly using some of these tools. And if I can do that, then I'm getting coding done even faster. right? And so this is kind of like, there used to be industries around horses and buggies. You know, it was like, yo, our horses are the best. And our little carts, our carriages behind them, made out of leather and metal. It's beautiful. And you got like comfy seats. Well, then when the car came out, that screwed all of that up, right? Because now you got a car. No one wants to deal with a horse. The horse poops. No one wants to deal with that. The horse is smelly. So you're like, yeah, I'm going to take the car. There's no poop. So what happened was the buggy people needed to innovate, right? So what'll happen is the people that don't innovate and learn how to leverage AI right now, yeah, they're probably going to be out of the job. But if you can figure out what it is you're doing right now, and you don't need to use every single freaking AI tool, because there are so many now, and half of them aren't even AI tools. They're just tools, but then you put the AI word on it. If you can figure out how to use a few of them, it's going to go so much better for you, you know? Like there are shortcuts now. And if you're not using the shortcuts, someone else is. So you got to figure that out too. It doesn't mean that everything is like it's all on fire and everybody's going to get replaced. What it means is that smarter people are now presented with smarter options. That's what it means. So my team and I, we're using smart options and we're innovating fast and we're using AI like crazy. But you also got to realize, and one of my really good friends, Josh Harris, told me this. He said it actually at the event, and he and I talked about it. You remember this? He said AI right now is it's like salmon, right? So salmon, they'll swim upstream when it's migration season. And grizzly bears, they know that because salmon's freaking delicious. And so they'll go to the spots where the salmon are swimming upstream. And they leap over rocks to get to the next river. And the bear will just sit there, mouth open, and just wait for a salmon to plop into his mouth. There's so much happening right now. You just need to open your mouth and grab a couple of them, but you cannot get all the salmon. Try it. Don't worry about getting all the salmon. Get like one good salmon or two and figure out how that helps your business. And then just like keep being awesome and be smarter. Like always look to be smarter.
Awesome. Guys, this has been phenomenal. I've asked every single question. Final one. If some people are watching today, and I can tell, because I recognize some of them are clients, etc., and they listen to you and they are inspired. Guys, if you're inspired, I'd love for you guys to type inside the chat. How are you feeling an hour plus of listening to Brady? I mean, like, I listened to him and I was like, I thought I was doing videos. And then after I listened to him, I was like, no, I'm not doing enough, man. This is not good enough. This is not even big. It's not even the biggest. It's not even big.
What's the biggest, baby? You're smart because you think big. And typically people outsource because they can think bigger. They're like, I don't need to do everything, right? If you can think biggest, you have pushed things to a maximal threshold. And that's what we do. And that's what you do. And that's why we met. So thank you for having me on your podcast, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I think I just want to read out some of the comments below. People love it. People say they're big fans. Their mind expanded. They need to think bigger. I just really just want to thank Brady because I think today was just supposed to be a little bit about content creation. But I think we went through a journey also. We went through a journey. It was about pushing ideas outside of our comfort zone. Even though we live in the age of convenience, we talk about creativity also. We talk about pushing and discarding ideas that were not bad, but not great. And then we talked about diving into who we are at the end of the day and just being the most authentic version of ourselves and just letting that come true in a courageous fashion. And I think we talked actually about knowing that the people that watch our stuff can be some of our best fans and friends, and they want us to win also. And at the end of the day, how to put it out there, I think it's just gone through the whole creator's journey also. So I really want to thank you, really, because most of the time, people don't understand how much work it goes into this. They just think it's a bunch of guys with a camera shooting and just, making it up. And, there's so much thought process. You're a director, you're a script writer, you're an actor, you're a film editor, you're all of these things. And you have to be brave, to do this stuff. And probably that's why they deserve the fame, they deserve the money. It's more than just, they're just good looking and they run around and do stupid shit. I think it's much more than that.
I appreciate you saying that, man. Yeah, it's supposed to look very relaxed, but there's a lot of, that's how you know you're doing it right? When there's a lot of prep and then it looks just natural when it's showtime. So yeah, this has been a great conversation, man. I appreciate you.